And then on Tuesday, I was going to ride my bike and get some ice cream.
Oh, what kind of ice cream?
I don't know, something with
Like Rocky Road? You like nuts in your ice cream?
nuts in the ice cream is
Marshmallows?
it's a good way to go, I think. But I'm kind of more into the chocolate pudding.
Oh, ooh. Stick your finger in the pudding.
Accessing. Star machine data link complete. Accessing Starfleet database complete. Initializing video stream complete.
Oh, it's the Warp Factor.
What is up?
I'm Marshall,
I'm Ian.
and we're on the Warp Factor. We have an update for you, from Ian, on episodes from season 1 of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Ian, please give me your
Yes.
recap.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, are we going to talk about specific episodes, or are we going to do like an overview, or both?
First, give me the overview. Tell me what you remembered before we did some refreshing.
I remember wanting to gouge my eyes out with spoons. It was very difficult to get through. Started off with a few episodes and glossed over the next 10.
So let me ask you, just from a general standpoint, what do you remember other than cheesy acting,
Oh, horrible acting.
terrible makeup,
How about
bad storytelling?
bad
Except-
props?
Like one. Give me one.
Let's talk about the phasers. The dustbusters that have been cut in half and
And had a light put in them.
had a blinky light or whatever. and how I don't know how you aim those pieces of crap. I mean, from the hip, you like pull them out from a bad.
That's where the term "shooting from the hip."
Yeah, right.
And
right.
that's got to have something to do with like Western in space type thing. Shooting from the hip is like an old Western gunslinger type thing. And I'm wondering if they were trying to capitalize on that. Although, if you look at a phaser, especially in season 1 of Next Generation, it looks like a freaking dustbuster, like Ian said. And it's got like a weird handle. And there's no way you could do any like flinging.
No, and when we talk about the holsters on their belts, it's also cheesy. I mean, it doesn't
cool,
fit
man.
their costumes whatsoever.
Costume, that's not a costume, bro. It's a uniform.
Right.
All right? Now, you can't come in here and start talking about costumes
They're uniforms.
like you're watching Star Wars, because those are all costumes. But in Star Trek, we call them uniforms
Uniforms.
with Starfleet insignia.
Oh, well, let's get back to what we were talking about, which is the dustbuster phaser.
Okay.
How do you aim that? I mean,
It will clean your shit.
you're supposed to like hold it up to your eye and try to aim it. That just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're trying to suck up some dust or dirt.
That's what you're doing. You're sucking dirt and dust.
Mr. Mom over there.
And you're vaporizing bad guys.
Right.
That's what happens on a starship called Enterprise.
So anyway, well, we could talk about specific items like that, but the overall for me was just trying to figure out trying to get past the bad acting. I mean, the acting seemed really forced, really. There wasn't any gel yet, and that's pretty common in most first seasons of any show, I find. But it was really forced, and what I don't understand is, we're talking about the first series of Star Trek from the 60s, and 18 years later after the end of the first series, we're still looking almost exactly like they left off in a sound stage and bad acting and bad costumes, uniforms, whatever you want to call it. It just seemed like there wasn't any upgrades since in those 18 years since they had the original.
So I agree that on that level, the makeup Mostly with some of the guest aliens and guest actors. I think the makeup on like Data is good. The makeup on Worf is good, although his satchel thing is shit. But the ship and some of the CG effects for the space-based visuals, I think, is amazing.
I'll give you
for
that.
The time.
Well, even the bridge, and we're talking about the
That's true. The ship's interior is much
it
improved.
has been updated. The LCARS format or the screens. I do like that. That is very nice. But when we're talking about the outside, the extra characters, the aliens, some of the props are really.
But even some of the main characters are a little. They're finding the character.
They're still trying to figure it out. I get it, but it still makes it really difficult to get through as a newbie, as somebody coming in, trying to get through it for the first time, and everything's just really forced.
And on that note, we could talk about some of the specific episodes. Ian and I kind of sat down here for a little while, went through some of the season 1 episodes to kind of jog his memory because it's been a little while, and we just are now doing the show. So we're doing kind of a recap for season 1. And I think that we need to start with episode 1, Encounter at Farpoint. You get the introduction of Q. You get a cool starship's separation with the saucer.
Yep.
And then you got jellyfish fucking in space.
The floating jellyfish from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Troy's like, pain.
And this is the episode that's supposed to draw everybody in. Supposed to capture.
It's the pilot.
It's the pilot episode. It's supposed to capture the audience with jellyfish
that glow and fuck with their tentacles.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It's sexy, bro.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they could show that on TV. And now here it's on Channel 2, which is the WB now.
It was progressive. It was
definitely hit.
Ahead of its time.
Yeah. They had squids fucking in space.
Q was a great character. I mean, and he continues to be a great character. So
right. So we had him show up again on one that I believe that you said you probably glossed over. What was the name of that one?
Let's see.
It's the one where they try and make Riker member of the Q species. Did we write that one down?
Maybe not.
I can't imagine why.
We must have missed it. Something we weren't looking at.
Let's see. Hide and Q.
Hide and Q. Yeah, we didn't grab that one.
Worf has a classic line in that one where he's like, they were like vicious animal things. And he says it in his Worf way. It's so cool. Anyway, that episode
and his really bad gold-ish sash.
Satchel.
His sash with tassels.
It's like he's Miss USA, but he's like Mr.
Right.
Klingon.
Right. He's like the
Listen.
he won the prize of that nobody was really trying to go for.
Yeah, so he got first place because it's gold.
First place Klingon for.
Okay. Oh, good. Congratulations, Worf. You get a gold satchel.
Yeah, and nobody else has
Vicious
one.
animal things.
It kind of, I don't know. Does that kind of remind you of some other thing that people have to put on their jackets, like a gold star or something?
It reminds me more of when you are at the end of episode 4 on Star Wars and they're getting the medals. But I think I would rather have the medal than the gold satchel because the gold satchel looks like you're wearing like an Asian rug.
Right. Something from Turkey.
Yeah, some Eastern or
I don't get it.
Asian country.
Well, what I didn't understand is none of the other Klingons wore anything near that type of material.
But did we see any Klingons in the first season?
No, we did not. No.
So that could be part of the reason why they hadn't really maybe formulated the look of Klingons on the show yet. And obviously Worf has his super short dome haircut, which is really odd to look at as well.
Why did you need something else to make him stand out? I mean, he's a Klingon. He looks different than everybody else.
Because, Ian, in the Federation, they're all about inclusivity.
Right.
And individuality. yet
Yeah.
assimilating at the same time. It's like America, all right? You can still wear your burqas and your whatevers as long as you pledge allegiance to the flag. So in this case, you pledge allegiance to the Starfleet uniform. Right?
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean that was I really liked the introduction of Q and just seeing, you know, how much control he had over them.
And he's like literally just toying with them the whole time.
Yeah, I mean he's got so much power that he's just playing with them, and
He's omnipotent,
right.
not impotent. So Encounter Farpoint I think was a decent pilot. I don't think it's the best pilot out of all the Trek series, but it was okay. And I think that the Q character is one that's very interesting. We get to see a lot more of throughout all of Star Trek, which is great. And then we have again like the cool saucer separation. I always thought was neat. The one thing that was kind of funny though is when they go and get Riker and they have him perform the redocking procedure, and all he does is like tell him to like slow to whatever impulse setting, and then okay dock, you know what I mean? And he doesn't even fucking doing anything at all.
Well, and I think part of that had to do with the writers. So didn't they go through a couple sets of writers during that first season? At least a few people were changed out from what I read, and maybe they just weren't trying. Maybe they were trying to find their flow or what worked, but I mean, it was just so forced.
Yeah, some of it was pretty bad.
Very forced,
but it's got some gems in there. But let's see what's next on our list.
Well, we could talk about where no one has gone before, which episode 5, where that's where the with the Traveler.
Yes. So that was a cool one where they have that dickhead engineer guy come on board the ship and try and perform the tests on the warp engines, and it's actually not him, it's the Traveler.
He's like taking all the credit wanting to take all the credit for, you know, making their warp engines better or doing, you know, and he has no clue. He has no clue what's going on.
Yeah, he's not doing shit. And they end up going into like hyper reality or something, and they're like in quantum states, and they can think about Worf's pig dog, and it comes alive on the ship, and so they have to be careful.
Yeah, pig dog. Awesome.
It was like a pig. It was a pig warthog. Dog.
It was a pig with a little thing on its nose.
It's a pig with antlers.
Hey, you know,
it was a pignoceros.
I guess if we're going to keep with the theme of, you know, or the recipe of the original Star Trek, you know, and that's what people loved. People really liked it. Then we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue on with Next Generation with that same recipe, at least to start with.
Pignoceros featured
Pignoceros
in episode 5.
Hey,
that's
yeah.
Worf's pet piggy. So yeah, that was kind of neat because it had an interesting tie-in with Wesley Crusher, and coming into it, one would think that Wesley Crusher is going to have a much larger to do about something.
I really liked Wesley Crusher's character to start out with. I mean, he seemed like a good dynamic for the rest of the group. I mean, it showed somebody else can come onto the bridge or eventually get there and you know, kind of be taken under their wing. And I really liked his character at that point.
I liked his character, but not his sweaters.
His sweaters were horrible.
They're awful.
He seemed to wear the same sweater all the time. What's with the rainbow across the chest? And
the zipper in the back that comes like half up, and you got the flares out. What is that shit? I don't know.
How did he dress him? His mother dressed him.
That's what it was. Apparent.
His mother dressed him.
All
every
right,
day.
Wesley. Mom's gonna have to take care of you now with your rainbow stripes and your pants that don't zip up all the way in the back. How do you piss?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I always wondered that myself.
So what else? Oh, the Traveler. So they're trying to test the warp engines, right?
Yeah.
So, and what was the end of that episode? What did they?
So the end of it was like the Traveler tells Picard, Wesley is a very special boy, and not in the disabled sense, since you can't use handicap anymore. Disabled sense that he's basically a genius, and they need to kind of feed that to him and make him more astute and to give him more opportunities.
Right.
to become his full potential or
Right.
whatnot. And then he kind of vanishes after they get back.
Okay.
So
But
they do pass warp 10, which there's some interesting stuff that I have to say about that.
Okay.
If ever you get far enough in the Trek series of
I
shows.
plan on it. I plan on getting there. You know, that's I know they've done it at least a couple times from what I've seen in the last 2 seasons or the first 2 seasons. So yeah, I'm all for listening or talking about that.
There's some
later.
contradictory information about warp 10
Ah.
that I don't want to spoil for you.
All right, well, we'll get there. Let's talk about episode 6, Lonely Among Us. That was with the crazy wolf and snake creatures.
Oh my god.
That probably is where I began to gloss over.
And I can't fault you for that, because although the episode itself, the core portion of the episode I thought was interesting with the energy thing that gets picked up by the ship and then takes over Picard.
Right.
All that stuff. That part was cool, but the side plot, the B story that they had there with
They're trying to transport these aliens to
that fucking hate each other.
That hate each other. I mean, that's fine, but it's just
no, lizard man.
Poor acting, poor costume choices. Makeup was
very
horrible.
bad. It reminds me of some Star Wars shit.
As a newbie coming in and watching, episodes 1, up to that episode.
Up to 5, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, does this ever get better?
At least it's not Farscape bad. I mean, Farscape has the worst alien makeup I think I've ever seen.
You didn't even get through the first episode.
Because it was awful. So at least you had to wait like 5 episodes before you saw something so atrocious.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is it got worse. The thing is with Star Trek Next Generation is it got worse up to that episode, and that's where it started to lose me. And for the next 10 episodes after that, I actually really need to go back and watch again, because I wasn't paying any attention.
That's what
I was just
we
trying
call
to get through
Ian's blackouts.
Yeah.
So what's next after episode 5?
All right, so that was 6.
Oh, 6. Excuse me.
Yeah, so let's talk about episode 7, which is Justice. That was with the Pleasure Planet, where they went to all the people that wanted to have sex and rub on each other.
Pleasure with their blankety,
and
half-naked boobs.
I love the fact that they go down there and Riker, women are all around Riker and they're wanting to go off with him. And he's like, yeah, let's do this.
I think it's even funnier when Wesley comes on there and he's like, just do whatever you normally do to everybody else. And they're like, we'll just give you a hug.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Go play with the children.
Go play outside. You probably would have been better if you just would have given him, some goodness in the back.
That's right.
But no, send him outside to play with the little girl that's going to fuck him over so he trips over on the flowers.
He didn't get the memo. He did not get the memo.
He did not get
Stupid children. You can't step on the grass, otherwise we're going to kill you. Gotcha. Perfect.
That's what happens when you go to a planet that all they want to do is fuck. They care about their flowers, man. Spice of life.
That's right.
Aphrodisiacs, once those die.
I don't even remember why that was so important to them. Did they ever explain that?
They don't. It's just kind of like their laws.
That was their
thing.
law, and they didn't have any reason.
If you're an outsider treading on foreign territory, the question is, do you follow the laws even if they seem ridiculous to you?
Yeah, well,
And
if you were told about the laws to begin with, I mean, I guess that happens now. I mean, if you drive through another state and you do something and aren't aware of the laws, they'll just throw you in jail.
I'm thinking more like if you go to another country.
Well,
because the state laws in the United States are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Overall, other than in some states you can smoke some ganja if you want. But otherwise, it's pretty equal. But if you went from the United States to some Arabic country where they practice Sharia law, that's a lot different. So, especially if you're a girl. I'm just saying, it's a stark contrast to what we have here, and that's kind of what that episode is highlighting.
Yeah, I agree.
And it seems ridiculous, but I see the point that they were getting at, and I still hate that fucking episode, though.
It wasn't too bad. I mean, I like the fact that the costumes weren't cheesy. They were nice. They did a good job with it. I mean, the acting was
Are you talking about the see-through, almost can see the
yeah,
boobs?
the drapey dresses, and I mean, it was a little, but it was believable. I mean,
it's risque.
It was, to me, it was somewhat believable.
But, yeah.
So
And and then they take the girl onto the ship. Remember? And then she starts praying to Picard like she's a god, and then that thing kind of appears and is half invisible, and he starts yelling at him, "Return his child," and all that.
See, this is where I began to gloss. I have no idea.
You forgot about that part.
I forgot.
Okay, they have a semi-translucent
Baby?
no, like a station or something that's like floating around out there, and it has kind of an interesting design.
Oh.
And because they took the girl off of the planet, the thing got mad at Picard.
It was supposed to be their god, right?
Yeah, that was their god.
Their
He's
god.
the guy that watches over them.
Right.
But because the Enterprise, so that's kind of like a twofer, right? So you have the moral quandary with the kid stepping on the flower is going to kill you with lethal injection right now, versus take my kids off my planet and I'm going to get mad at you, Pickard.
I really think they need to start, talking to their leaders before and find out what their laws are before they start stepping onto planets unknown.
Yeah, one would think, and that didn't happen that time. And
I guess that's why they bring their dustbuster phasers with them.
I mean, that's how you fend off an attack of sexual predators.
All right, so
with an overly protective god.
Let's talk about
from space.
Code of Honor. That was earlier. We kind of skipped over that being in order. So let's talk Code of Honor. That was with Lieutenant Yar fighting the black guys with.
So that was like the people where the woman in the civilization owns most of the property, I guess, and the wealth, I guess, comes from mostly the women. Right. And the guy was trying to get his girlfriend or wife or whatever to fight in a battle of death to Tasha Yar, and so that he could inherit her property, essentially. And it was a really poorly acted out.
Oh, God. I think
fight scene, and the whole episode was kind of shit.
I don't remember what episode it was. It was early on, maybe 2, 3, 4, something like that. I don't remember exactly. But it really showed how much they were trying to force. I mean, even their movements were really... It was so poorly acted, and the writing was bad, and... Even the costumes weren't all that great. The props were even worse. I mean, they just seemed so cheesy, and just trying to get through that was really tough being a newbie. So
and the only thing I can say is I completely understand as somebody who's 40. It's 2017. You're going back. You're watching this. It seems like crap, but for the time, I believe it was actually really well done compared to other...
We're talking like 1987, 88?
87.
Something like that.
So what if you put yourself...
What else was on at that time?
Fucking Charles in Charge, bro. Family ties,
Charles
man.
in Charge was a little bit later. I mean, we're talking... Was at the time of like Knight Rider and Airwolf and...
Yeah, Airwolf is awful. Have you watched any of that lately?
Not lately.
Airwolf is... And I remember loving that show as a kid.
Yeah,
loving
I loved it as a kid.
I couldn't wait until they took Airwolf up and shot the missiles at the dirt.
To me, it was totally like...
It's terrible.
It was like Knight Rider in the sky. It was awesome. But now it was...
If you watch it, it's pretty awful. Same with Knight Rider. It's really... It's basically a lot of the same things you're... not complaining, but pointing out about the first season of Next Generation. Cheesy costumes, makeup, characters, acting.
Well, even all... like what else was around that time? We're talking about. Let's talk about A-Team and MacGyver.
MacGyver was. I haven't watched any of that since I've been a grown up, to be honest. So I can't remember. I just remember he was on the Stargate series, which seemed stupid.
Well, and I've gone back and tried to watch MacGyver, which I really loved when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's just it's full of cheese as well. So, in context, yes. I mean, thinking about all of that, together. But there was a lot of cheese at that time, and that was how it was. But when you're talking about the innovative, the innovative special effects and what they were trying to do, it was probably pretty ahead of its time.
I think so, because the effects carry the rest of the show, and it's the acting and some of the prop work and the costumes, uniforms catch up.
Yeah.
To the other aspects of the show that were ahead, like the visual effects.
Right.
Which is good for you since you haven't gotten to all the goodness yet.
Well, into season 2, it's gotten better, but from what I understand, it gets even
way better.
Even more better than that.
Even more better.
Even more better.
Even more better.
More better.
All right, what's next?
All right, so that was so let's talk about Angel 1. That was with the planet that they're on, where the women are kind of more masculine, and then they have the men are more feminine, kind of like the Amazon woman, where they were more...
Where their men are submissive and the women are the dominant sex. Yeah. That was an interesting episode, and when you have Riker showing his hairy boob on that one, I kind of liked it.
I really just the content of that episode was really good. I really liked what they were trying to talk about and the differences and how they were trying to deal with that role reversal with that planet, the people of that planet, was really, I thought, made it an interesting episode.
And the even better part, or the more better, as Ian says, part of that, I think, in my opinion, was that you even had members of the Amazon women who did desire a more dominant man. And it was all kind of done in secret because it was so taboo.
It was all taboo.
So it had some interesting plot twists and storytelling. I thought that was a decent episode.
They wanted some taboo loving.
Yeah.
They really needed.
I think what did it is they have Riker wear a pink thing with his boob out. And that's so he can nurse his young, I guess. So what else is next?
Well, let's talk about... Okay, so we're going to episode 14 with the Binars.
So this is 11001001.
Yeah, does anybody know what that comes out to in binary?
I can find out.
I mean,
fill some dead air here, and I'll tell us what that's about.
So that's where the Binars come on to try to work on the ship's computer, right? And they start trying to steal the data off of the ship. These little short alien looking. They almost. I mean, they all look the same. I mean, that's pretty racist, I guess. But they all start to look the same, and
you bastard!
you bastard!
I can't talk to you anymore.
But they end up trapping Riker and the captain on the holodeck and trying to distract them so they can continue to take the data, the information off of the ship's computer before they're caught or trapped, or I'm not sure. But it was really kind of an interesting episode to see that progression. And did you figure it out?
Yeah, so if we do a breakdown of binary into decimal, which is base 10, which is what we use with our 10 digits, is 201, which seems rather insignificant.
What is that? I wonder what that has anything...
I'm sure if we had Michael Okuda on here, he could answer that. But...
Or if they had any reason why they chose those numbers in binary to begin with. Maybe they didn't have any idea.
Maybe it didn't. Maybe they only had 201 seconds to live, or minutes, or something. Who knows?
Interesting.
And hexadecimal, it's C9. And in I don't know what octa is. Octa something? Octagon? Octadecimal.
Octadecimal.
I don't know. Do you know what that is?
No.
Anyway, it's 311,
okay.
which is, I think, a code for weed smoking. So maybe it's that one. if you're a police officer.
And that's what it takes to get through the episodes of season 1.
Now, that episode is really cool. It had some nice holodeck stuff on there with Minuet. And you got the hot lady, the hot redhead in red.
The red,
listening
in the
to,
red dress.
Yes, listening to Riker play his tromboner and serenade
All
her.
he was doing was moving the slide in and out.
That's what you do? Have you ever played a tromboner?
Yes.
That's
I've
what
tried.
you do. You blow and you go like this.
Yeah, but he wasn't blowing.
He was smile blowing.
Yeah. He was thinking about something else.
And he was like, yeah, I'm going to blow in your... whatever.
Blow your horn.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ring your bell.
Ring your
He
bell.
wasn't ringing a bell.
All right. So, anything you have to add to that one? Because it was. You're right. The being trapped on the holodeck was kind of cool. You know, seeing all those different scenes and what they could do with that.
And they had some of the holodeck, and I think some of the other ones. But to have that super hot chick on there.
And it was extended in the holodeck. That's what I really liked about it, was seeing all the different scenes and
you go Bourbon
sets.
Street, New Orleans.
Right. It was pretty cool. I liked it. It was neat.
So and that had an interesting, and they had Wesley like just standing there like staring at him. He's like, I don't trust you, fuckheads, because they go with their mouths.
Yeah, they were incoherent, weren't they? They weren't really talking to people.
They could talk to you, but they would like finish each other's sentences. So it was like they were
chatting to each other, but in their own language.
No, it's like their brains are connected to each other.
Like telepathy.
Yes, but they could. I don't know. It seemed like they could data transmit wirelessly through their mouths. So it's like they could probably get Wi-Fi if they just go like this.
They had microwave antennas in their mouths or something.
Oh, you gotta have direct line of sight. Point it right at me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, down
Your
lower.
hot pocket's ready.
Yeah, hot pocket. So anyway, I like that one. That was actually a decent one.
It was okay. It was one of the better ones towards the later half.
Right.
What else
we have?
Are we ready for the next one?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about episode 24, Conspiracy. So this is the episode where the Starfleet is whispered to be corrupt.
It's been infiltrated. And Picard goes to a weird planet and has a discussion with one of his pals. And because he's the only one he can trust, apparently. And I don't remember all the specifics, but Admiral Quinn...
Yeah, because he couldn't even tell Riker that where he was going and why.
Yeah.
It all had to be super secretive.
Super secrets.
Super secret handshake.
We should make one of those.
No, let's don't.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. Okay. Don't touch
I thought
me.
it was a good idea. I haven't had a super secret handshake ever, so. Yeah.
So that's the one where these little like bug aliens, they kind of look like pincher bugs. I don't know if you know what pincher bugs are.
What do they call those? Earwigs.
Earwigs. Yeah. The little bugs that go around and like crawl into your mouth and take over your body.
Which is kind of a take. Well, I can't spoil this for. Have you seen any of the movies?
No.
Okay, I can't say anything.
Other than the Abrams movies, no.
Okay, which is sad for you, but at least you've seen some.
It gives me an opportunity to watch these for the first time and talk about it on Warp Factor.
Did the Abrams movies? Did they give you more of an appetite to watch Star Trek? Okay, well then I guess they're not all bad.
And I think in part they were designed that way, and I the purist of Star Trek are very upset about what they've done and changing the story, and I understand that. I do understand that, but it gave a gateway to the new people coming in to go, hey, let's check this out.
So can I just say something about that real quick as a side tangent? I want to do a whole other episode on the Abrams stuff versus the originals. But,
okay.
I just want to say that my personal opinion of the Abrams films is they're not terrible, but the thing that really angers me about them is the design change to the Enterprise is a fucking atrocious.
Are you talking the ones that already exist or the ones that are the one that is coming?
What?
Are you talking about the movies that already exist, or are you talking about the Enterprise, the triangle shaped, the pizza cutter?
Oh, yeah, you're talking about Discovery.
Is that what I'm talking about?
No, that's not even the Enterprise.
See, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so the Enterprise, and this is supposed to be in the Abrams films, the Constitution class Starship Enterprise, NCC 1701. And they made it look like a bulbous, rounded, weird-looking thing. They fucked it up. Now, when Abrams did Star Wars, did he change the way the Millennium Falcon looked?
No.
Exactly. He could have done it with much more subtle touches and kept the character of the ship. In my opinion, that's where those movies really anger me.
The only thing he changed on the Millennium Falcon that I can remember was the antenna, the satellite dish on top, and that was because it got knocked off on the previous episode. But
my point is that he didn't mess that up
No.
in Star Wars. But he comes into Star Trek and he's like, yeah, let's make inside look like a Mac store and let's make the outside look stupid.
But you got to remember with Star Wars, that was after he made the Star Trek films. He learned from the mistakes of making Star Trek.
Listen, I don't think he would have messed with any of the Star Wars shit because you can't. In Star Trek, I guess you can because you did it. But
you can in Star Trek. I mean, I think
me
he grew
angry.
and saw what the fan base was upset about and made those.
No, because they made a cup. There's a cool guy on YouTube. I suggest everyone go watch. His name is Junk Ball, which is an odd name.
That is a cool
for
name
a Star Trek channel. But the guy goes and does some retrospective stuff, and he talks about ship designs, and he's funny as shit. Anyway, but he talks about the Abrams reboot Starship Enterprise versus the original 66 design and some other things. So they went back and they changed it for Star Trek Beyond, but not in a lot. It looks like the same crap to me, and I don't like it. In other words, the Kelvin time frame, I am not a huge, gigantic fan of.
And see, that's very common. What I hear, from the purists, that they don't like that, and I
appreciate the reboots and the rejuvenation of popularity to the franchise because it needed it, but I think that I'm not entirely happy with everything done, and you're not going to make everyone happy, and I understand that. So all I can say is at least there's movies, and at least they're not as bad as they could have been.
Oh, I mean, even there's been worse movies made with the original cast in comparison. So
Star Trek 5.
So, and I have yet to see that, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So,
it'd be interesting to catch your thoughts after you've had some more exposure to the rest of the shows and everything. And as a new person to Star Trek, that's not a bad way to go either. If you go and you watch the movies first, that's okay. I think that's a good way.
Well, and if you got a pretty good sense of the original cast and from the original series.
Well, the upgrades in terms of overall acting and effects, etc., is
acting, effects,
way better.
Writing. I think they did a good job. I mean, from somebody coming from the Star Wars world. I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But I don't know all the intricacies of Star Trek as many others do. So I didn't catch those, so they didn't bother me. But it allowed me to now watch Star Trek or want to watch Star Trek Next Generation and sit and do this podcast with you.
That I've got to give them credit for that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're off topic. What
we went on a tangent. We were talking about conspiracy, and for some reason, we started talking about.
We need to talk about the commander kicking Wrecker's ass.
It was actually an admiral.
It was an admiral.
Admiral Quinn.
That's right.
Who is a reoccurring admiral throughout the series, I believe.
Yeah, he's been in a couple episodes I've seen anyway.
Yeah. So he just does this weird, like, ninja side kick across Riker's face. Boom! Knocks him out.
Throws him up against the wall. Yeah.
It's vicious, man.
It's vicious, and, you know...
And I wonder, like, I think on my Blu-rays, they have the TV teaser trailers that came out for each one. I need to go back and watch that one and see if they show that kick, because I bet you the people watching that for the first time
it was like a roundhouse kick.
Oh my god. Yeah, like he's kicking Riker's ass.
It's like he was doing a rocket kick.
It's like, I don't know if you remember the episode of Saved by the Bell when Zach gets his ass kicked by Screech and he throws him over the bench at the max. It's like that.
I don't remember that.
It's like the shit that's like, how can that happen?
Well,
and then you watch the episode and you realize how it could happen, because the guy was taken over by a lizard or insect in his ear.
I just like when they do those action sequences, like, you know, this guy's like, you know, 75 years old, you know, trying to kick his ass, and then they show him like doing the kick, and it's like some 25-year-old.
And he's got like the smile.
Yeah.
When he gets hit.
Right.
Punch me. Okay.
Punch me again.
Doesn't hurt me, bitch. Yeah. Anyway, I like that episode for the cheese factor. It's hard to explain, but that...
Oh, that was where the head exploding, right?
Yeah, at the end when when Picard and Riker shoot the guy in the head and his head blows up
with the phasers.
Yeah, that I bet you at the time, and I remember I think seeing that one when I was a kid, and that was probably pushing the limits there, because it was kind of more gory looking. You could see inside the guy's chest, and they had the kind of sideways, like the front view,
the gory puppet.
Like the front view looked like shit. Like it looked real shitty, like blue screen,
bad blue screen.
But then from the side view, where they had the mock-up of the thing sticking out of the chest, that was cool looking. I thought
the puppets. I don't.
Yeah, but the puppet thing was terrible looking. But again, if you were watching that in standard definition on Channel 2 in 1988, you would have been shitting your pants. Your mom would have come by and been like, "What are you watching?"
You weren't watching that on a 60-inch LCD screen.
No, you were watching it in rabbit ears, getting it off the air.
That's right.
On your little tiny...
You couldn't see all the little details that we can see now.
Exactly. So we're spoiled by the high definition. And I think overall, like... the show holds up decent compared to other shows that I've seen. Farscape. And in terms of that, but the high definition is something that
I'd like to say it gets better. I think I've seen up to episode 5 of Farscape, and it's the same. I mean, it's
still terrible as shit.
It's still bad.
Hey, this guy fell into this black hole in his spaceship. Let's
acting.
throw him in jail. Oh, look, there's these weird aliens. I hate Farscape, by the way.
It's not as, I don't think it's as bad as Marshall says it is.
I think
it eventually will get better, but I think that one's a harder sell to get through.
You have less. I mean, so I guess if all we had in Star Trek land was a couple of movies, let's say they got 1 through 5, and then the original series, you'd probably not watch any of it, or very little. But Farscape, did they ever make a movie for that? I don't know if they did. I don't think so.
I think there's even talks about doing something now.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Let's hope.
I don't know.
I hope.
Don't know. I couldn't get far enough into it.
I hope that you are completely wrong about that. If there's a Farscape movie, I will not see it. It will go down in history like Jim in the Holograms movie, which is an abomination.
Holograms. Jim in the Holograms. That was horrible.
I didn't even watch it. Did you see it?
No.
Oh, then how could you say it was horrible?
I mean, they took a whole story, a whole, like, you know, preteen story, and just decided to throw Gem and the Hologram's name on it.
Yeah, it's like, did you guys even... I could just tell by the trailer that they didn't stick to Dick. No. And I love Gem and the Holograms, okay? I do. I'm serious. I love that cartoon.
You need a Gem and the Holograms hat.
I tried to find one. I would wear it too. I'd rock the pink one. They had a pink one.
The pink one, and then go to Comic-Con with, you know, paint a star on
your eye. Put a thing
eye.
over my eye and get some red star-shaped earrings.
That's right, that blink.
Showtime synergy.
Yeah. Oh God. And then, well, with the whole movie that they made for that, I mean, they changed the look of everything.
It just seemed like it wasn't Jim.
No.
That's what I'm saying. And
No,
that's
and
pretty much what
tanked.
you said. It's a teen movie that they just threw Jim and the Hologram's name on. I think that movie only lasted like a couple of days, maybe a week in the theaters, and it got yanked.
Yeah. Yeah, well, for good reason.
So that and Farscape are awful.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we could continue talking about awful, but
we should save that for a separate awful sci-fi shit that we don't like, or like 80s culture.
That could go on for a while.
I could too.
I could go on for
because
quite
there's
a
good,
while.
but there's some really bad stuff.
I mean, when we're talking about getting back to season 1, it was awful to begin with. I mean, it continued to be awful. I really need to go back and watch the middle again.
I think there was some gems in there, but the thing is that with cinematic TV and each episode its own story, you kind of, and I think I've seen discussions where the writers and some of the producers were worried about it being the Planet of the Week kind of thing, and the dynamic actually, I think it's season 2 they have some really good storytelling of that nature, and then season 3 it starts getting just way better.
Yeah, I mean we'll talk more about season 2 another time, but. It was getting better towards the end there, and I really started to like it again, and was excited to get on to season 2.
So you came out of your Star Trek coma.
Well, yeah.
Of the gloss over period of 10 episodes of season 1.
It did take some convincing by you to say.
I did ask you to kind of push on, and
Yeah.
I was pretty literally almost begging you to not give up on it.
Well, and I had told, it was you or other people saying, hey, you can skip season 1. Yeah, there's some things that happen that might be significant, but you can go into season 2. But I was like, you know what? I gotta push through this. I
mean,
can
at
do this.
least if you're gonna start at the beginning and push through, season 1 of Star Trek: The Next Generation is not the worst thing you could have watched. So.
You're thinking of Farscape again, aren't you?
No, Farscape is not even an option. I'm talking about just like in general in the Star Trek universe, going through the original series of stuff by itself.
Yeah.
I am an adamant Star Trek fan. I've loved Star Trek my whole life, pretty much since I can remember. But I still can't watch all through of the original series, and I have tried.
You've got to skip a few.
I have not. No, I've tried watching them all in order. I have the Blu-rays. I got them last Christmas, and I've been trying to watch them. And it's just really hard. Now, there's some really good episodes in there that I cherry pick because I know what the good shit is. But getting through some of the bad ones is hard. So I understand, even as a Star Trek fan. No, I'm just trying to point out that getting through season 1 of Next Generation isn't as bad as it could be.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I did start with the original series, and that was difficult, and that's where I stopped and kind of gave up to begin with. But your suggestions of getting on to Next Generation was good, and it definitely could be worse, but it was getting better towards the end and really started to gel. I mean, we could talk. You want to talk about the episode where Yar was killed?
Yeah, not it, and unfortunately, that was a very sad time for me, because when I was a young man watching that show, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I always thought Tasha Yar was very pretty and attractive.
That was the end thing, to have the short.
I had
haircut.
a crush on her, man, and now I don't, but I did when I was 8. And when she died, I was very upset.
Did you have any idea why she left at that time, or was it just...
I think that she was upset that they, Denise Crosby, I think, was upset that they were not giving her enough
well, we know that now.
Good types of screen time. She was complaining that, the only time they would see her would be her legs behind the horseshoe. You know what I'm saying? Because they'd be focusing on the captain, and you'd see maybe part of her arms and her legs.
She wanted more screen time.
She wanted more quality screen time, and I can understand that as an actor. I bet you that's tough to deal with.
Did you know that at 8 years old?
No. I had no idea. All I know is that they killed off the hot girl with the short blonde hair.
And that was a decent episode. I mean, the whole tar creature, I forgot what...
Fuck, I can't remember his name, but he was just reminds me of the Blob.
The Blob.
You know, the
Yeah.
big oil monster.
That's what I
thing.
was thinking too.
And the cool thing is in a lot of the DVD extras and stuff, they talk about that specific episode because it was not only a pivotal one where you lose a main character on the
Major
show,
character.
but also they talk about how when Riker gets dragged his ass into that thing and he gets pulled into the black tar slime, and it was printer's ink and Metamucil.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Is that what they used?
Yeah, and he said, like, LeVar Burton goes up to him and says, like, he tells Jonathan Frakes, he's like, I would never have done that. Like, when he's all covered in the goo. So, and it had, like, a lift or something that pushed him out of it, and they, like, rolled him off.
How did they breathe? I mean, even with all that stuff covering them.
I do not know. I think you just hold your breath and...
That was crazy.
I
Well,
mean,
because you couldn't see many features in some, especially with the tar alien guy or whatever he was. You couldn't see.
he has a name. I can't remember his name.
He had to have had like a burlap bag or something over his head.
Well, that would have just been a dude like with like a towel drenched in
Yeah.
the stuff. That's kind of what it looked like, right? With the guy that was in there, and they probably could have had something in there. And there's a lot of cutaways and stuff, so I'm sure they didn't have a lot of.
Well, and they, one thing that bothered me about that episode, and this is just, it's kind of trivial, but when that blob would move and cover the shuttle,
Troy in it. Yeah.
They used that shot probably 3 or 4 times as it's moving back and forth.
And it's the exact same shot.
It's the exact same shot.
There's a lot of that in Star Trek, and it's because it was expensive for some of those special effects, so they would get it once and reuse it a couple times. Even, and I don't know if you've noticed yet, but a lot of the ship flybys are the same.
Well, yeah. I mean,
they just change like the color of the planet they're coming up on.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I can see that.
And they even use, and there's a reason, like the original NCC 1701D model was so big and hard to set up to do the camera maneuvers on that they just reused a lot of the shots. They even reused some of the same shots in the Next Generation movie, called Generation.
I'm sure it was cumbersome. I mean, the ship isn't really...
But it's so such a weird
heavy.
Center of gravity on it,
Right.
because the saucer section on it is so bulbous compared to the star drive, and that makes it difficult to attach and set up. And
especially with a world that has gravity. Yeah. So let's...
gravity?
Well, yeah, because you're talking about being top heavy.
That's the way I like them, though, man.
You like them top heavy.
Yeah, you don't want the kind that are bottom heavy. Well, in my opinion.
I can tell, seeing both season 1 and season 2, I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of money in season 1.
They did decent on very limited budget, yes.
I mean,
which was like a Star Trek staple, man. Like the whole original series is like shoestring budget. And to think of how they accomplished some of the things that they did on that amount of money is pretty impressive.
For that time frame.
Yeah.
Well, and I noticed that going into season 2, their budget just probably doubled or tripled. And it was very well known. It was very, what's the word I'm looking for? It was very apparent how much more budget that they had. The scenes were better, the sets and the costumes and the special effects with that extra budget. So what they did with the budget that they had was you got to take that into account in the time frame. So if you can get through that first season being a new guy, it does get better, and I'm glad I stuck through it.
Yeah, because you're the FNG watching TNG.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Well, I'm glad it's working out for you, and we're going to do another episode on Season 2. We'll do a recap with Ian on that. And then Ian has now been allowed by yours truly on the Warp Factor to continue his voyage into watching Star Trek The Next Generation. We will catch up with Ian and his Season 3 reviews, and I think we're going to try and maybe stretch those out as specific episodes that catch our eye, maybe. Yeah. Or we can maybe do... Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes up in Season 3. I mean, well, we'll get there, but, we've got to talk about Season 2 first.
Yeah, Season 2 is a great
It is a good season.
It's just a little short because of the writer's strike. We'll
Yeah.
talk about some of that. So anyways, I think that's going to do it for you.
Yay.
Thanks for tuning into the Warp Factor. Be sure to like the video if you liked it. Please leave a comment if you would like to tell Ian that Star Wars sucks. That would be awesome. And subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what we're doing here. We're planning on doing plenty more of this. So thanks again, Ian.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, man. We'll be back in next time.
Sounds good.
Warp speed.